Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday afternoon on Gulfstream Today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Acacia Courtney, and we had a little bit of a hiatus for the past 3 days as the Fasig-Tipton sale just came here to Gulfstream and took over, actually, and a lot of success at the sale this year. Of course, looking back to earlier this week, Monday was the pre-show, Wednesday evening at 4 p.m. was the sale. A very nice turnout there, and actually over a 16% increase overall. So the sale just had a huge amount of success.
It looked like it really was. They did see increases across the board, and with the RNA percentage going down, so that's always a good thing to see. And they actually had 74 horses sold for more than $25 million. Of course, the sale topper being hip number 57 by Uncle Mo for $1.5 million. And I had read that she did actually receive the top breeze figure of 68, and she has a stride of almost 25 feet. So it looks like she's really going to be an exciting prospect to follow on the racetrack, along with many others.
And I think really the story of the sale, is Carrie Frommer and what she has done really in the past couple of years, pin hooking yearlings at the 2-year-old sales. We saw her Uncle Mo filly, the sales topper, sell for $1.5 million. She purchased the horse for, I believe, $250,000 as a yearling too. So she's had a great amount of success, especially with her Uncle Mo progeny. So I think she's definitely one that's been in good form as of late.
Whatever she's doing, she's certainly doing right. She did also have a More Than Ready colt go for $1.1 million as well. So definitely fun to watch. And I agree, that is the story. It really did look like a lot of success this past week at the sale.
And I think Larry Best purchased both of those horses. I think $1.5 million and then the other one $1.1 million. So it was a good day for him as well. But congratulations to all of those who sold and purchased. Really looking forward to seeing some of those 2-year-olds later in the season when they do get to showcase themselves. So we will take a look for Saturday's program. We've got another lovely 13 race program, and boy, what a card it is. We've got 9 stakes races, all totaling up to $1.5 million. And we also have some really nice guarantees to take part of, Acacia. That late pick 4 is an all stakes late pick 4. That's going to be a $600,000 guaranteed pool. In the sequence, we have the Devonadale, the Canadian Turf, the McDermott, and of course, headlined by the Fountain of Youth. We also have guarantees in both the pick 6 and the pick 5.
We do, so keep an eye out on those. We'll have $400,000 in the pick 6 and $300,000 in the late pick 5. We've seen those bets be even more than those guaranteed pools. So as you said, a lot of stakes action. We even have some fantastic maiden races on the card as well. I was doing some pedigree research last night, and there's one race with the full sibling Too Hard Not to Like and a half to Rachel Alexandra in the same race. So definitely looking forward to that great card on Saturday.
I'm very much looking forward to that, and hats off to all those that filled the races and made the card possible, because it's a handicapper's dream and a bettor's dream come Saturday afternoon. But we will take a look at tomorrow's card, and well, I'm up to bat here for Beat the Expert, and you actually did a great job last week. I think you had 3 winners, right?
I did, yes. Better than 1.
It is, which is kind of what I've been getting in the past couple of weeks. So I'm up for Friday afternoon. It's going to be a fun day, good card, and hopefully I get through it with a couple of winners. But definitely go online and enter the contest. You can enter at Facebook/Gulfstream Park. Use that hashtag #BeatTheExpert, of course, for bragging rights and a chance to win one of those cool polos that say you beat the expert. Of course, you have until first race post time tomorrow afternoon to get your picks in.
It's a lot of fun. As you said, first post tomorrow is 12:35, so don't miss out. And you'll see our picks up on the tip sheet on the website as always. And you're passing the torch now.
I am. I've got the baton. We're going to move forward. We'll take a look at our wagering menu today. Of course, we have our featured wagers throughout the card. We do start it off in the opener with that rolling super high 5, no carryover in that. That takes place in races of 7 or more betting interests. In race 1, we do also start that 50-cent early pick 5. Acacia will have a ticket for that. On this 11 race program, the Rainbow 6 does start in the 6 6th race. That carryover just shy of $80,000 in the sequence today. And of course, the late pick 5 that does kick off in the 7th race on today's 11 race program. We are fast and firm, 12:35 p.m. first post. It is a gorgeous afternoon here in South Florida. A little bit on the warm side though, but you won't find me complaining. Race 1, of course, does kick off that early pick 5 that we just mentioned. Acacia, how'd you see it?
All right, well, I did find a single. It is some guesswork today. I think this is kind of a single in the book of Ron Nicoletti style. So I wanted to spread in the first couple of races. I thought they were pretty wide open. We have a heavy favorite in Bermuda Triangle to start things off, but I used a couple other horses, 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, singling in the 5th and final leg. So hopefully I make it there with the 7 Howlin' Mad Smith for Nick Zito. And that's a wide open maiden claiming sometimes, and you never really know what's going to happen in those races, but I thought that's the horse I might be able to have the most confidence in today.
Okay, you have at least some decent coverage in the first couple of races with that single in the last leg of the early pick 5. And you mentioned a heavy favorite right now at 8-5 with just 3-2. Of course, early money, but the 2 Bermuda Triangle here for trainer Joe Sharp, I really do think is the horse to beat. Last time out, really did get a beautiful stalking trip and it panned out, but he's got back class. He was dropping from allowance company, and we'll show a stat for trainer Joe Sharp with his winners last out sprinting on the turf. They're strong. He's 32% out of a big sample size of horses, 50, and finishes in the money 50% of the time. Almost a $3 ROI. So the stats are strong, and this horse is clearly one of the more accomplished and consistent horses in the field.
He is, and he has some tactical speed as well, which I do like. I definitely think the main speed will be to the outside with duffel bag. I think he's probably going to shoot out from the gate, which I do think kind of sets up for Bermuda Triangle to get into a comfortable position early, and I definitely respect him off of that, not trying to get too creative in the opener. But the 6 Black Eagle actually placed first through disqualification last time out to get that non-winners of 2, but was kind of weaving through the back and was closing very wide in the stretch. The winner, of course, was disqualified, who was the main speed that day as well, Contractor Jack. So had some interest in this one now coming back. Hopefully he's not left with so much to do, but I do think he'll have some pace to run at today.
Yes, and you see Contractor Jack was disqualified in that race, but I thought that Blackjack Baby was probably the one horse that was hurt most by all of the bumping and the troublesome stretch run. So Black Eagle, yes, he was placed first via disqualification, which is always kind of something that I want to approach with caution here. But playing the other side of the spectrum, he was competing against much tougher company prior to the drop in class. So you could probably say that he was meant to win that last race, and he should be able to face this level of competition.
And after breaking his maiden, he was facing those tough starter allowance company races, as you said, and actually even faring pretty well sometimes up at Belmont. So I respect him off of that. Also had some interest on the cut back in distance in the 3 Xanto for Lisa Lewis. I always give another look to her turf sprinters.
They always do a fine job. As we get to the second race on the card, a 12,500 conditional claimer for 4-year-olds and upward, which have never won 2 races or which have not won a race since the 2nd of September. We're going to the 1-turn mile onto the main track, Acacia, and you go towards the outside to the 7 Rich Daddy, as do I. I think that this is the right drop in class for him. Actually, a big drop in class considering the conditions that I just mentioned.
It is. It's a very significant drop in class for him. He comes out of the rough and ready last time out where he was 3-1. He took some attention that day and he finished a well-beaten 5th that he really did seem to regress after his Claiming Crown Iron Horse performance 2 starts back. Even though he finished 5th both times, the margin by which he was beat and looking from a buyer speed figure standpoint, he went from an 80 to a 67 last time out. But there are definitely some things that I like about him. He's got that back class. He's a 6-time winner at this distance, and he certainly fared well against tougher competition. I actually had Victor Barbosa 1-2 in here, also using Giant Inca stretching out in distance, but I really do think Rich Daddy on the class drop.
And I guess the concern would be, you know, you look at his races going the 1-turn mile when he was facing competition over kind of the spring and summer here at Gulfstream, and he found himself a bit closer to the pace. And with some of the hiccups that he's put in, say last time out or even the start before that, he's found himself kind of lethargic in the early half of the race. So I'm hoping he gets back to the speed that he used to show with this major class relief. You're right, the number 6 and here Giant Inca could definitely hit the board. He's dropping dropping from higher level competition, but he's another one who, yes, he did get into some early trouble last time out, but he does look like maybe a horse that might be tailing off in form, and so is his speed. So the 4 Donegal Hall was one that does have speed, maybe too much because he's shown that he kind of runs off in the first half of the race and then stops. But he too is coming out of open company for this specific condition today. So I did see it as a little bit of a class relief, and just hoping that he can use his speed and carry it a bit better today.
He is, and I do think there'll be some speed to his inside. The one Saturday's Light used to show some speed when sprinting on the dirt, so I do kind of wonder what he'll do now from the rail here. I imagine he probably would go, even though he hasn't really in his past few starts. And then Velvet Colors has shown some speed on the turf, so it just looks like this race is some suspicious early pace, so maybe that just will set up for Donegal Hall if he can sustain it. But a horse that'll probably take some money and will be coming late is the 3 Transformative, who goes to the dirt now. He's actually had 2 starts on a fast main track, so a lot of guesswork there. I used him in third, but kind of a little bit hesitantly.
Let's get to the third race on the card, a maiden 12,500 event, 1-turn mile onto the main track as well. And the number 3, Acacia, You Can Do Magic here, was where you did land after a troubled beginning last time out.
And that is kind of why I did go to this horse. I had some big reservations about the horse that's the morning line favorite. In fact, even money on the morning line in the 6, You're My Destiny, who has some speed, but just kind of been in second in the last 2 and definitely is the one to beat on paper, but I didn't know if I completely trusted her. So You Can Do Magic moved to the dirt last time out. It does look like pedigree-wise, it looks like going long on the dirt is perhaps going to be preferred, and finished a respectable third last time after having that stumble at the start. I don't think we'll be so far back this time. Carlos Hernandez in the saddle yet again.
And the 6, You're My Destiny, it is really difficult to take a short price on a horse like this in a race like this. I actually looked at this race prior to the morning line, and I would just thought that this is probably the most likely winner. She draws an outside post, and you look at the overall picture of the race. You're My Destiny, she's got enough speed to maybe even make the lead from that outside post. You Can Do Magic, she might be maybe a stalker closer type of horse, and then we have Heavenly Lucky, who could be in that stalker closer type of position, especially from the rail post. So I really saw it with these 3 horses. Whether or not you want to use all 3 maybe in the early pick 5 is up to you. Maybe I definitely wouldn't single on the 6. I would have some coverage with those other 2.
I used all 3 in the pick 5 for that exact reason, especially on what promises to be a short price on the favorite. But it's not the easiest field to make sense out of, even though it's a small one.
It definitely is not. As we turn the page to the 4th race, we're heading out to the turf at the mile for this Florida-bred maiden special weight event. And the 1-2 Step Blues was where both you and I land. And before we get into this horse, wanted to show you a stat here for Jose Pinchin, with his horses actually stretching out from sprint distances to route distances on the turf. A decent sample size, 17%, $2.27, but only 28% in the money, so it's kind of like feast or famine. So I think we are kind of taking a little bit of a shot with picking a horse like this.
It is, and the biggest thing too is that she is technically stepping up in class. She's going from maiden 35 to the state bred maiden special weight company. Now, of course, she does go to state bred after facing open maiden special weight company in her debut, but that was sprinting on the dirt. And what I did like is that she actually had a troubled trip last time out, but she showed quite a bit of tenacity. She had to check back to last at the start last time. She was far behind. She was steadied multiple times and just no place to go along the rail last time. She is kind of bred for turf as well, and it'll be, as I said, her first time facing state bred competition, and she just ran into a really nice Christophe Clement runner named Fashion Factor last time, which was a tougher level race. So giving her a pass today, even though she is kind of stepping up.
I picked her just because of her troubled trip last time out, quite frankly. I mean, it could be feast. This is another case in point. This could be feast or famine, because sometimes we pick horses off of a troubled trip because it looks really bad, but if they didn't have the trouble, they might have not won regardless. So it is taking a bit of a gamble. Yeah, she's got a little bit of pedigree. It isn't overwhelming, but she does draw good inside posts. And as you said, kind of walking us through the race, she got into a lot of trouble. So I'm going to give her one more shot at a decent price as an alternative. The 4 Sunfest, though, we'll go back and take a look at her last replay for Chuck Simon.
And she'll probably take quite a bit of money off of this last race. She had a trouble trip as well. We'll start with the break here, the number 2. She's bumped on either side and just really squeezed back. A very uncomfortable break at the beginning. So she was kind of urged up along the rail then, and she needed room. She just kind of looked like she was a little confused. And maybe it's just greenness. It was only her second career start. She did manage to get second at the wire, but she's kind of like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And Paco Lopez is trying to urge her along, and then she does kind of kick into gear. So I thought it was a solid performance. She definitely improved off of her debut. She was kind of just a best of the rest with the runaway winner, and he's the one. But I do think that she's one to respect off of that.
She could, and like you said, she was a little bit green. She did have the blinkers on for both of her starts, so it's not like you can make too much of an adjustment change. I think she probably just needs experience, and maybe it does look like she's a horse that prefers to be a little bit covered up, so maybe that's, again, the scenario it will be here with Paco Lopez back aboard. At least he got one underneath of him, and he has experience with the filly now here today, and she's well posted kind of in the middle of the field. The 6 River Spring for Ralph Nix went pretty fast, sprinting at 5 furlongs, and she didn't really show up from there, but we saw Morticia come back to win the Melody of Colors with an 84 Beyer speed figure, and we also saw Spelker take a maiden special weight last weekend with a 70 Beyer speed figure, so you would have to think that this filly is going to improve with a little bit more distance and maybe a little less competitive company.
And that was a very competitive race, as you were saying, and especially those top 2 finishers going on to win. And just top to bottom, it was a pretty solid race. So now it'll be her first race against state-bred competition.
Let's take a look at the 5th race, a maiden 12,500 race, 6 furlongs on the main track. And sometimes this is a little bit of a difficult race to cap off the early pick 5, but this is where your single comes into play with the 7 Howlin' Mad Smith for trainer Nick Zito. I don't know. This is tough.
It's a very tough one. As I said, I felt like I was going a little bit to the Ron Nicoletti School of Singles today, but it was kind of one of those races that I wanted to spread in some of the earlier legs, and I said, well, I don't really have an opinion, a strong opinion about anybody else in here. Now, is Howlin' Mad Smith the surest of bets? Absolutely not, but he's getting back in distance for Nick Zito. He had dropped to this level, and he's coming off of a very solid performance last time out. Now, his sprint races do kind of leave something to be desired, but it was against much tougher company than what he's facing today. So Nick Juarez in the saddle. He was a $150,000 purchase, so of course you never really like to see that price tag at this maiden level, but maybe this is just where he needs to be to get the win.
He's also a 5-year-old maiden that's already had 10 starts. But look, I picked him on top. I think he's met the right field today to maybe finally get that elusive maiden score. Yes. The concern with him is how slow he is. Despite the class level, despite the distance, he finds himself so far off the pace, and that was a concern for me. You know, whether or not he can kind of bridge the gap in the right time as he is cutting back from the 1-turn mile. But you look at all the other speed in here, and they just don't look like they're legitimate speed. I think it's a really suspicious pace, and it could just help his running style. Maybe that pace will kind of fall apart into him.
It really could, and I thought Archivero was probably the most legitimate speed horse in the field, and he is a scratch. So we saw Cool as Ice off a 10-month layoff, so show speed last time, but who knows what he'll do now, second time off the bench.
Well, that's races 1 through 5. Let's get that single home. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll tackle the 20-cent Rainbow 6 and the late pick 5 right after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve. Give bettors the information they need to win and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Saturday, March 4th, the road to the Triple Crown continues at Gulfstream Park. Don't miss the country's top 3-year-olds compete in the Grade 2 ExpressBet.com Fountain of Youth Stakes as they continue their journey to Derby glory. 9 total stakes races, $1.5 million on the line. A thrilling day of live racing. Grade 2 Fountain of Youth Stakes. Derby contenders start here. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today, and as you just saw that commercial, we're just a couple days out from Fountain of Youth Day, and just taking a look at the card on Saturday, we've got 9 stakes. That's right, 9, and all of them totaling in $1.5 million in earnings, of course, headlined by the Fountain of Youth. We've got guarantees in the Pick 6, Pick 5, Pick 4. We'll talk more about that later, and of course, try to promote that because it's some excellent, excellent races. There is a moth on my arm.
Wow, that is a big I once had a bug come and just like fly into my face, but that was a lot. Okay, maybe it's good luck.
He's gonna stay there, and I'm gonna.
She's
try
gonna
not
get
to freak
the Pick
out.
6 now.
Can we show you the Pick 6? Oh man. Okay, there's my ticket. 64. You never know what's gonna happen on live TV. But this moth has got to go. Okay, $64.80 for the Pick 6. It's a 20-cent base wager. We're looking at 3 horses and the first leg, followed by the 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 6. My palms are sweating. There's the ticket. It's $64.80, a very affordable ticket. And now our cameraman is taking a picture. Dennis is taking a picture of the moth.
Dennis, that's cruel. You should be helping us. Okay.
All right.
I think we're all right now.
Let's get to the Pick 6. Let's get
We're
here.
good. We're good.
Acacia, start us off. How did you see this race?
Okay, well, I had a little bit of a tough time with this race. I think the 3 Basilica, first off the claim for Steve Town, is probably the horse to beat. So that's where we'll start. I ended up picking a little bit against her today, but would I leave her off in the first leg of the Pick 6? Absolutely not. She has some speed. She won last time. She was actually bet down 90 cents to the dollar. But she does have to kind of repeat that kind of performance, and she's cutting back in distance. She won last time at the 9 furlongs on the turf.
She is indeed, but we'll show a stat here for Steve Town. First off the claim with mid-level claimers on the turf, how the barn generally does overall, because I wasn't really familiar with how Steve Town does on the turf, especially with his claimer. So I was interested in running this stat. He's 29%. He does well with these types of horses. Positive ROI. So I thought that this horse kind of is facing the right level of competition, not really stepping her up in class off the claim. This is the right spot for her. But yes, I think her vulnerability is the fact that she won going 9 furlongs and now she's cutting back to 7.5. So an alternative could be the 7, Lucy in Disguise for John Service. We saw her compete against the same level of competition last time out, and even the second place finisher, she actually won at the level, and she ran in the Miss Presidentris on President's Day.
She did, and that's kind of why I did like this horse coming out of a solid couple of races now. She was actually beat by Valedictorian both on the dirt and on the turf last time, but last time was her first turf start, and I do think she was really compromised by the post last time. She's still outside, but she's in post 9. She was 11 of 11 last time, and I think it was a pretty solid field, as we saw by Stay Safe Kitten coming back. She was widest of all early last time out. The winner was just on the lead and was kind of a runaway winner in Valedictorian last time, but she did manage to get up for 3rd last time out, so giving her a little bit of another pass today.
And the 6, Mischief Moss, was a horse that I just threw in, although I'm really questioning the distance for her because physically she really looks like a one-turn horse. She's just kind of really built up behind the saddle, doesn't look like she wants to go distance of ground, but she could get out to the front end with the weight allowance there and just never stop. So I thought that she was an interesting one in there as well. We'll get to the 7th race here, an open $16,000 claimer, 1-turn mile on the main track, and of course the studs kick off that 50-cent late pick 5. Did you find a single in the late half?
I did not single the late pick 5, so hopefully I get the single in the early pick 5. Had my bankroll a little bit, $54 here in the late pick 5. Just using 2 horses to start things off with Backseat Driver and Loving Valentina. 3 by 2 by 3 by 3. Of course, the 9th race today being a really exciting one, so just using 2 horses in there. I really like Fire on Fire to beat Stockyard. $54 today.
Okay, do you want to see a replay of Backseat Driver?
I do.
We'll ask and you shall receive.
I
We're going
like
to go
it.
back to her last race, and that's where Athira does come out of as well.
It is, yes. So this is on the 16th, and we'll show both of them at the break. Of course, the one Backseat Driver looking a little unsettled coming out, but Athira just kind of sat in the gate and was off slow. She was far behind the rest of the field. Backseat Driver at a nice position along the rail there, just trying to get through, but didn't have any room. The rail just didn't open up, I think, like they were hoping that it would. So she had to go outside, and these two horses were closing behind the winner. And so I did think that it was a solid performance. You can see the 4 Athira out in the center of the track now. I gave the nod to Backseat Driver here today after that race. She also stretches back out to the mile, which I do really like. This was at 7 furlongs last time out.
And it does. It looked like she kind of was just grinding coming down the stretch, and she was on the rail, and then she had to angle out, whereas Athira was kind of out in the center of the racetrack and closing, kind of an unencumbered trip. But Backseat Driver does have to draw the rail post position today going the 1-turn mile. But overall, it looks like a really suspicious pace, and that's why I liked her closing running style in here, because we have Loving Valentina at this distance, should show speed. Dressed in heels, maybe her speed was heightened a bit from the slop last time out, but that was her first time stretching out to the mile, so she's figured to show some pace. And then we have a couple of others who have sprinted and showed a little bit of speed, so I do think with the rail post, with the presence of speed, it is going to set up for Backseat Driver.
And that was kind of my thinking as well. Loving Valentina, you certainly have to respect her. She won 4 races in a row, just kind of against all odds, really. It seemed like she handled everything that you threw at her, slop, long, short, coming from an outside post, whatever it was. So she was claimed. She stepped up in class last time for Jorge Navarro, and now she's back at this Open 16 level where she has won before.
She definitely knows how to win. We'll give her that much. And a little bit of an aggressive move, stepping her up so much in class off the claim. I think she's going to be better in this spot here. As we get to the 8th race, of course, kicking off the final pick 4 of the day, we're going 5 furlongs on the turf for this maiden $20,000 race. And we'll go back to a video spotlight replay of the number 4 Budding last time out.
And on paper, this is definitely the horse to beat. He was the number 5 that day. He's got some speed. He was the favorite here. You can see he's actually even money, and he was beaten by just a neck, but he really had a very good trip, and he just could not or would not get by the winner that day in Grant Me Peace. And we do have another horse closing to the outside. It seems like Luis Saez was really trying to get a lot out of him in the stretch, and that's kind of why I did take a little bit of a hitting the pause button for him today. I used him in second. I absolutely respect him, but off of that, I thought he really does need to take a step forward.
And he very well could. You look at other horses in here, and I think probably the best alternative would be the 5 Starship Danny, and I like the fact that Luca Panici is back on board, because he is a patient rider, and it just seems like he suits this horse very nicely to kind of take him back off the pace. They're taking the blinkers off as well, and maybe he'll get a little bit more of a comfortable trip, whereas Budding, he does have kind of that tactical speed, so I think if you use these 2 horses, you should be kind of in good shape here.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well, and I do think you'll also get a better price on Starship Danny. Plus now he's 3rd off the layoff. It was about 10 months between March and January, and he comes off of a relatively solid 4th last time, actually in that same race, but I like the blinkers off, and as you said, with Luca in the saddle.
And other than that, it's kind of, you're kind of grasping at straws a little bit. We have the 1 Federal Reserve who's coming off a pretty significant layoff since November of 2015, and rail post at 5 furlongs, not easy. But I think Dominic to the outside could be an alternative too. He actually did draw the rail post. Now maybe a better post position, had trouble cutting back. The horse figures, but I think we might have the right 2 with the 4 and the 5, or vice versa. We'll get to the 9th race on the card. This is a $50,000 conditional claimer for 4-year-olds and upward, which have never won 2 races, or 4 straight 4-year-olds. We're going the mile on the turf, and I thought that this was a competitive little race, but a key scratch of the 4 Artie type.
And he definitely promised to take some money after being very close in his last 2 races for Chad Brown. He came off of a layoff as well and was beaten 3/4 of a length and then a neck. But now he's out, and that probably in my mind means that Stockyard for Todd Pletcher is going to take even more money. But I just don't really trust him in this spot. So I looked for an alternative, and interestingly enough, we both found the same one in Fire on Fire, who's technically stepping up a little bit in class, but as we said, with the key scratch. But last time he was very game. He was stalking, and Refer, the winner that day, was absolutely the horse to beat, and he kind of came on the outside. And it was a good pace setup for Fire on Fire last time. I just think that he's a horse that's been in very good form, and we see Reed Nagel horses kind of stay in form too.
Well, I actually thought that he might have been up against it in terms of the pace, because the pace did seem to maybe go backwards, and he was kind of part of that pace, and he made the first move into the pace, and he was used from an outside post, and he was 4 wide going into the first turn. So I thought with all of those scenarios, now with a good rail post position, given the fact that he's got tactical speed, I liked better than the 6 Stockyard. And you're absolutely right. This horse is going to take money because it's Luis Saez, Todd Pletcher, and they're dropping in for a tag. But we'll show you a stat here for trainer Todd Pletcher with his horses dropping from allowance company to claiming company on the turf. Just 18%, not a strong stat. And look at that ROI, 94 cents. No, thank you.
No,
I don't want that. This horse can win, but if horses like this win, I lose, because you always want to try to find horses to try to beat these heavily bet horses, excuse me. And he will take money given the scratch of the 4 Artie type.
And even if you look just back at his last couple races, I mean, last time was a pretty disappointing performance. And then 2 starts back in the Tropical Park Derby. He was a long shot in there, but he didn't really show up at all. He will show a little bit of early interest. And even his last win was at Gulfstream Park West in allowance company, and it was on a good turf that day. And I just remember it wasn't the strongest of field considering what he's facing today and what he faced in his last 2 starts. So took a little bit of a pause, and then especially with that stat. But do have some interest in another horse that's going from allowance to claiming, and that's a 3 Derby Champagne for Rusty Arnold. Now, allowance to claiming on the turf, he is just 1 for 6, so it's not the strongest move for his barn either. But by contrast, with the exception of that last race in A Other Than a Company, in that starter allowance race 2 starts back, I thought it was a very good race in Saratoga for this horse, so maybe off the freshening.
And I don't think it's a crazy drop, because obviously this horse he's run against maiden $50,000 company that made him eligible for that starter allowance race 2 starts back. So to run him for $50,000, I don't think is crazy or suspicious by any means. And I couldn't hold that stat really accountable for Rusty Arnold because it's such a small sample size, 6 horses. So I don't think you get a clear gauge. And this horse, Julien Leparoux, a lot of people don't pay attention to this, but he's very good with speed horses. So this horse has speed, and he very well could get confidence on the lead today in a field that he belongs against. We'll get to the 10th race, though, to kick off the final daily double. Maiden $50,000 race, 6 furlongs onto the main track. And once again, we're going to give Bun Bun one more shot.
Oh, Bun Bun, we're going to try it again here. And I looked at this race for a long time, trying to find something else. And last time out, this filly, she stumbled at the start. She was really just done early. I think that she's a horse that's much more comfortable on the lead. Now, that being said, she's a hard horse to really have a ton of confidence in, because really her only good race was that 1-2 starts back where she showed that speed. Obviously, maybe she was a bit more overmatched against the maiden special weight company in her first 2 starts. So giving her one more try, but I don't think I would have confidence to single her.
Yes, I know. it's very difficult, really kind of dicey here. But the 6 furlong distance, I do like her better than 7 furlongs. And she just looks like even 5.5 furlongs, I wouldn't mind for her. But obviously this race is not that. If she breaks better today and does make the lead at 6 furlongs, I think it's going to be the best case scenario. And I love the fact that Luis Saez is now aboard her. I think that's a big, big change here, as Luis Saez, he too rides speed horses very nicely. The 3 Sunday Gravy is a horse who should be closing from off of the pace, or maybe even stalking, because she didn't break really abruptly as we've seen her break in the past.
And I think that she'll be a little bit closer today, because she didn't get off sharply last time out, and that was against that 60,000 maiden company. That was also off of a freshening, and it was cutting back in distance as well. It looked like they kind of had a tough time figuring out the right spot for this horse. Tried stretching her out, and she is a $100,000 purchase by Unbridled Song, but she has been kind of racking up the defeats now in her 6th start.
And of course, the 6, Party Tardy. I don't know what to do with this filly because if you remember back on the 12th or December 11th, she was scratched because she got loose, and they finally caught her. They scratched her that day. Last time out, she was really acting up still. The rider, Misiel Jaramillo, had a very difficult time getting in the saddle. She just looks like such a nervous filly. So I'm wondering if the blinkers on today will help her. We'll see how she acts in the paddock this afternoon. But she is a hard one to thoroughly trust just because you don't know what kind of antics she's going to throw in the afternoon.
And that's why I used her in 4th, as did you. I kind of took a little bit of a pause with her. We'll see if those blinkers happen, but that would be a race, I'd say, to just watch what she's doing before she gets to the gate.
And we will keep you up to date with that as we get to the finale here. Race 11, maiden $20,000 race, 5 furlongs onto the turf. And we will go back to show a video spotlight replay of the number 9, Deneb, who you landed on here for Brian Welch.
I did this towards the outside, and we'll start with the break, the number 9 that day as well. She was just off slow. She just wasn't sharp out of the gate, and she was about 3 wide early as well. You can see her there on the outside in the green silks, and then she was closing on the outside, and she looked pretty green in the stretch as well. She was wide around the turns. I think that she lost quite a bit of ground, and that kind of did explain why she flattened out a little bit. You can see that she was a bit late switching leads, and then, as I said, she's just a little bit all over the place, still a little bit green and rank in the stretch. She does get Lasix, or he does, excuse me, I've been calling her she this whole time. He does get Lasix for the first time here today, which we've seen Brian Lynch certainly have some success with, primarily on the turf, and he just does, in general, a very good job with turf sprinters at Gulfstream.
And for that level, for maiden 20, I actually didn't think it was a bad race. I thought it was kind of a competitive race. So that's encouraging, and the addition of Lasix and Julian Leperoux staying aboard today, another encouraging aspect of her, or of him, excuse me. The 11 break the mold, though, for trainer Reed Nagel. Tough post position, way to the outside. This horse really did nothing first off the claim, 2 starts back, but I liked the fact that he actually showed a lot of speed last time out, and that was actually going a shorter distance than the 9 furlongs where he did before, and even the mile. So sometimes we see when a horse shows a little bit of speed, that means that the light bulb has kind of started to click. So maybe that's the case, and he gets a class relief from his last performance.
And he was drawn outside as well last time, so he showed that speed. So I think that that's definitely encouraging. Now towards the rail, the number 1, Eloy Rod, I definitely expect to show some speed for Jorge Navarro as well. He's kind of shown speed and then stopped, but he is trying the turf for the first time.
And we'll show a stat here for Jorge Navarro, taking his horses from turf to dirt at 5 furlongs specifically. Big difference with his horses from 7.5, which is technically a sprint, versus 5 furlongs. So I wanted to be very specific with this stat. 42 horses still, 29% positive ROI, 62% in the money. He is very good with these 5 furlong turf sprinters, especially if they haven't quite woken up on the main track. This horse clearly has speed, good rail post if he will show that speed on the turf. He's by Gemologist. He's got a nice little pedigree here, so why not give him a shot? I thought it was intriguing that Paco Lopez, who was aboard last time out and defeated by over 10 lengths, comes back and stays aboard.
He was a distant third last time. He was behind Mo Cash, who was a runaway winner and then did go on to win in Restricted Stakes Company. So I don't think that he was really running a bad race, but we'll see if that surface switch helps him today. Do still expect the 10 Stoneheart for Antonio Sano to take a lot of money off of his race. 2 starts back at this level where he was beaten in nose, and Jose Ortiz in the saddle. I just needed to see one.
Well, that is races 1 through 11. We do have our featured wagers today. The moth has left me. I feel a lot better now. So we're going to take a quick break, and Pete Ayala will be up next with those scratches and changes. Best of luck.
We have to take care of these horses that, give us so much joy.